What's up, and welcome to the Cover 2 Recap. I'm Edward Lewis, publisher of BruinSportsReport.com.
And I'm Ryan Karchi, OC Register UCLA beat writer.
You could probably hear our voices from our podcast, but now you're watching us on TV. We're here at the Rose Bowl where UCLA just beat Nevada 58-20.
Just put on a rout of Nevada 58-20.
We're here to just break it down real quick, get a little instant analysis before we jump into our podcast later this week and later next week and later this month. But Ryan, your instant analysis of the game.
You know, this offense I thought showed the ability to be high-powered that obviously we saw last year with Jonathan Franklin, but without Jonathan Franklin, they didn't miss a beat. I mean, these running backs ran for 345 yards and 5 touchdowns. I don't care who you're playing. That's pretty impressive. And I was especially impressed with Jordan James. Strikingly mediocre last season. 3.5 yards per carry, spelling Jonathan Franklin. Obviously, he did much better than that in his first game as starter. Averaged over 7 yards a carry. Ran for over 150 yards on 21 carries. He's clearly the number one guy. I think he proved that tonight. What about you, Edward? Who stood out for you?
Yeah, I mean, there was a ton of standouts. Just getting to that running game, though, it showed me that Noah Mazzoni's system can really deal with running backs. We all thought it was Jonathan Franklin last year, and probably was, considering how bad that offensive line was. But every single running back that touched the ball tonight had a 27-yard gain was the longest. 27, 37, 45, 20, 24. Every single running back that touched the ball had at least a run of 20 yards. So it's clear that this system works, especially behind an offensive line. So Jordan James was great, Steve Manfred was great, Paul Perkins was great, Brett Hundley was great. But just that offensive line, that was wow. Alex Redmond said after the game, Adrian Clem could have run through the holes I was making for this team.
And he's right. I mean, those were some Mack truck-sized holes. And, when you have that many holes, that big of holes to run through, I guess it doesn't really matter if you're Jonathan Franklin or Jim Brown or
Edward Lewis.
Or Edward Lewis. The offensive line, just in general, I thought maybe impressed me even more than the running backs did, just because this is a group that was so inexperienced and inconsistent last season, and right off the bat, one of the guys who stood out the most was the freshman that was starting, who we didn't even expect to start necessarily before the game. Caleb Benenoch was the starter we had all kind of seen at right guard, but Redmond really kind of came out of nowhere. I guess he had proved a little bit in his recruitment that he was a good guard, but he really came out and made a heck of a first impression.
It's incredible to see that translate to the D1 level. We all saw him in high school. There was a practice for the B2G West Coast Bowl, and he was pancaking everybody. And I was like, is this how it's going to be? Like, can he come to UCLA and do it? And he did exactly what he did at the B2G West Coast Bowl here. And he started at guard, and he beat out Caleb Benenoch. I think that's going to be an underrated thing. Caleb came in here as the starting right guard, and Alex Redmond beat him out. That you can't say enough about that guy.
Well, now we can see why.
And Eddie Van Der was kind of same deal. Guy that translates. It's hard. Like a guy like Ellis McCarthy, you see his film, and it doesn't really translate. This stuff is translating to D1, and it's only game one. That's kind of the standout. Was these freshmen are legit, real deal people.
Miles Jack too is another guy. I've been a big fan of his from the beginning, but he looked great. He played, it seemed like almost half of UCLA snaps tonight. Stood out a lot more than Aaron Wallace, I thought,
Absolutely.
At that outside linebacker spot. So I think we can count on seeing
Goodman,
him.
I thought outplayed Anthony Jefferson.
Yeah.
And I bet you if Priest had played tonight, he would have outplayed Ishmael Adams, who I didn't think had a great game either. So that class, I think they burned 15 red shirts tonight, and it wouldn't surprise me if there was 2 or 3 more on the way.
Even Jalen Ortiz, Darren Andrews, those kind of guys who we didn't really expect much
Low
from.
3 stars.
Already did so.
Jayon Brown and Cameron Judge were on special teams. It was just an impressive night. So Ryan, now after seeing this week, this game, do you have a revised prediction for this team? I know you said 8-4. Is that still the case?
Until we see a team, I don't want to give any disrespect to Nevada, but this is still Nevada. I mean, I think when they go to play Nebraska in Lincoln, that's where we can really start making statements about where this team stands the rest of the year. But I will have to say they scored about 20 more points than I expected them to today. The defense was better than I thought. The offensive line was significantly better. The running backs were better. So at that point, I guess the outlook is a little bit better, but I still want to see them prove something against a team that, isn't gonna fold in that second half, kind of like Nevada did.
Yeah, that Nevada squad though is good.
They're
I
good.
covered a lot of Mountain West last year in my career, and that's a good squad. It's not like they just beat up New Mexico State. So I'm kind of revising it. I think maybe 9-3 is a little bit more possible than 8-4 was. I think they're as good or better than every team on their schedule outside of Oregon and Stanford right now. So that means they should be in line to win 10. I don't know if they will be, but
I think what'll be key, and this is something that the defense struggled with at least a little bit at first, is dealing with that running quarterback. Cody Fajardo, Nevada's quarterback, a good quarterback by all measures, especially in the Mountain West. And he ran for over 100 yards. He kind of had his way with UCLA's defense, at least at first. And I think that's a good test going forward. That if they can stop those running quarterbacks like Jim Moore mentioned, Nebraska's Taylor Martinez. He runs. He's probably faster than Fajardo, I would say. So I know Jim said he's one of the best dual threat quarterbacks at any level. So I'm assuming he means the NFL there, which pretty high praise for Taylor Martinez. But if they can deal with those running quarterbacks, I think that this defense will be just as good as the offense needs it to be.
that'll wrap it up for us here at the Rose Bowl. You can catch all of our stuff at BruinSportsboard.com and at OCRegister.com, and you can continue to follow us on Twitter at EdwardLewisBSR and at
Ryan_Karchi.
And you can continue to listen to our podcast weekly, on the Cover 2 podcast on both those websites. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time on the Cover 2 Recap.